Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of Intuitive Psychology, the podcast. I am Jill Ritchie. I'm joined by my fellow co host and co founder, Sarah Gregg. And today we are in the space with the incredible Mart Tweedy. Mart is an incredible human being. He is the podcast host of Canny Crystals, which is number one in the UK for spirituality. Not only is he an author, but he is a well-being and law of attraction practitioner with several years of mindfulness coaching, manifesting practice, and subliminal affirmation knowledge under his belt. His focus is around holistic healing by way of using meditation, crystal therapies, and visualization to bring forth and awaken what lies dormant in each of us. Mark, welcome to the Intuitive Psychology Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor to speak with you girls because honestly, there's such an amazing energy. And I know we only spoke yesterday and you said the same about me, but honestly, every time I speak to you, I always leave with such a smile on my face. So thank you for that
Oh,
energy that you girls bring as well.
oh,
That's so
feel the
lovely to
same.
hear. Thank you. And I guess for people that maybe aren't familiar with your work or your story, tell us, crystals, what brought you on that journey? What was the starting point that kind of led you to set up and form Canny Crystals and build, let's face it, like a real movement behind it?
So it's quite a long story, but I'll give you the shorter version and I might get emotional while doing so because it does take you on a bit of a roller coaster. But back in 2017, to paint a bit of a picture for you, I was in massive debt. I was working in the NHS in mental health. And I just kept coming home on a night thinking there's got to be more to life than this. I was coming home with take home pay of like £1.50. And then after all of my bills and my debts had been paid, I was literally adding more debt onto credit cards every single month just to try and survive. And I remember, at the time, spirituality wasn't on my radar, but I'd always had a keen interest in tarot decks, spirituality, like churches and stuff. I'd always gone to psychic healing nights and Reiki and things. But like I say, it just wasn't on the cards. And then I read a book called The Secret, which is where I think pretty much everyone starts. Very basic bitch book on how to manifest things. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to trial this. I'm going to set myself a goal for £3,500 to get myself and my partner away on holiday to Thailand. Now, at the time, like I say, I was constantly paying off debt. So I had no idea how this money was going to come to me. And I remember lying in the bath one night and I put some seagull noises on, some waves lapping, and I lay there in the bath making the water go backwards and forwards as if it was like the water lapping over my body. And I was like lying in the sea. And I was visualizing myself like on this beach, on like a little safari with elephants and things. And I think about a week later, I saw an advert on Twitter advertising for a brand new TV show called Tipping Point. And I don't know if you watch Tipping Point or you know what it
Yeah,
is, where you put the
yeah.
counter in the machine and you can win money. So anyway, I went for this audition a couple of weeks after that, and it'll be no surprise to you that I won, and the amount I won was exactly £3,500. Now, straight away, light bulb moments started going off in my head, and I was thinking, did I manifest this? Was this me? Like, is if this is what I'm capable of, what else could I be capable of? So, guess what happened for the next 2 years after that? Do you think I manifested a brand new house? Do you think I manifested the car of my dreams or £1 million in my bank? Short story is no, I manifested absolutely zilch because life got in the way. And I just kind of kept on thinking, it was almost like the limiting beliefs and the self doubt creeping in, thinking, nah, it's just coincidence. There was no way in hell that that is because of something that I've done and something that I visualized. So, anyway, we jump forward to 2019. And one of my friends said, there's a lot of TV chat here in this story, but one of my friends said, I'm going on the TV show Love Island. I want you to basically look after my social media. And I was like, me, I've got no experience. And she said, no, no, I just want you to be funny and post funny little memes and things on my account. Just keep control of it. And I just kept thinking to myself, I would love to do this full time. I would love to do social media full time and just get out of the NHS and get a bit more money behind me. So anyway, off the back of that, I got invited onto This Morning, Capital Breakfast. The Huffington Post even wrote an article about me rather than my friend, saying about how successful the campaign was. And things just got absolutely crazy. And I remember when I was invited onto This Morning, the only thing I wanted to do by going on This Morning was to meet Alison Hammond. Now, at the time, Alison wasn't even one of the presenters. She just used to come in and do like the links for competitions and things. And I remember saying to the researcher, is there any chance Alison will be in that day? And they went, no, she doesn't work a Thursday. She won't be in. And I was like, I'm not having that. So all the way down on the train, I was visualizing just Alison like embracing me in a massive hug. I could hear her laughter. I could just feel myself having such a good time with her. And sure enough, I'm sat in the green room. I can hear a cackle coming down the hallway. Alison came in on a day off. She doesn't even know why she came in. She just wanted to come in. And I just thought, I've done this again. So anyway, to cut a long story short, my friend, she won Love Island, and that was July the 29th, 2019.
Who
Now
was
that's
it? Sorry, Mart, who was it?
it was Amber Gill.
Oh,
I don't know
right.
if you remember that
Yeah, yeah,
series.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So that day that she won was a day that I'll never forget for many reasons. Now, the main reason is that my house completed on that day. So we got our house keys earlier that morning. We went to a Love Island finale party, and that was like 8 o'clock, I think. I'd had a few things to drink and, got home a little later than planned, as you do, because we were celebrating. And the next morning, I woke up to a phone call. Now, this phone call came through at about 6 a.m. And I just remember thinking, oh, it'll be a journalist wanting like the first scoop or something like that. And when I looked at my phone half asleep, I saw that my mum's name was on the front of my phone. And straight away, intuitively, you just know something is wrong. And I can still remember, like, I replay this phone call in my head over and over again. And my mum, she was breaking down in tears, and I could hear her voice cracking. And I said, what happened? And she said, we didn't want to disturb you last night because we knew how much it meant to you and how like happy you would be and how ecstatic you would be in that emotion. But your granddad got took to hospital last night and he died en route to the hospital in the ambulance. Now, he wasn't ill. And to put things into perspective, he was the father figure in my life. Like I never had a dad growing up. So he raised me alongside my mom. And I honestly cannot remember the next 3 months after that. I just feel like I was a zombie. I feel like I was just living for the sake of living. I would get in the bath and run a bath, and I'd be in the bath instead of visualizing. 4 hours would pass, and I'd have just stared at the ceiling the entire time, just totally numb, not knowing what my next step was, whether I could come back from this. And three of my friends that same year took their own lives as well. And there were people that I was really close to. So I think I was going through a hell of a lot of grief. And I just kept on thinking to myself, how am I supposed to go into my job in the NHS and give people a mental health support when I'm feeling this exact same way myself? And I feel like I should be accessing those services myself. And I remember looking at The Secret one night, just seeing it on my bedside table. And I just looked up at the sky and I just said, come on, universe, I need something to prove that this is going to get better. And I know people say like time's a healer and it's such a cliche, but I thought, maybe it's true. I'll just got to see what happens. Anyway, the very next day I went into the office and my manager, she could see how much I was struggling. And I was having weekly meetings with her and things just to make sure I was coping okay. And she said, look, I've got an opportunity for you. I can send you to Liverpool for a week. There's a lot of work that needs doing down there. We need someone to head up this new project. And I said, right, okay. She said, I think it'll do you the world of good to get you in a hotel on your own. You can be by yourself. You've got no partner, no family, no distractions. You can just work on yourself for a week. And I said, right, okay. So I did that. And when I got down there, I went to a hire car place. And I thought, I'm just going to hire a car and I'm just going to go out on evenings just to explore Liverpool because I like to explore. And the girl who served me in there, I told her my story. She recognized me off being on This Morning, which was weird. And I told her my story, and she said, "Do you know what would really, really help you in this situation?" And I said, "What?" And she went, "Crystals." And I turned round to her and I went, "Are you all right?" And I was like, when you just think, oh, she's lost the plot here. And she was like, no, seriously, I practice witchcraft. And I was thinking, oh my God, witchcraft. And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is like a bit too far fetched. And she said, crystals are really, really good. They can really support you with grief. They can give you self love. They can boost your confidence. And I was like, right, okay. Thought nothing of it. followed her on Instagram because, you know, I really got on with her. And a couple of weeks later, she opened a crystal shop on Instagram. And I can remember thinking, I just want to support her. She really helped me that day. So I
Mm.
just said to her, look, if I send you £10 on PayPal, you just send me what you think I need. So anyway, these crystals came, and funnily enough, it was just so weird. My grief started dissipating almost instantly. And I'm not saying that the crystals obviously just made me forget about my granddad, forget about my friends or anything like that. It was almost like I started being a bit more mindful because of the crystals, and the energy that I got from them made me feel a certain way that I hadn't in a very long time. And so over the course of the next year, I think I accumulated around another 200 crystals from her, which were all around my house. I mean, you can imagine what my house was like. There was like even crystals in the toilet, like not in the toilet bowl, but in the bathroom. Um, and I just kept on thinking, what can I do to get this message out there to people? And I remember running a little crystal masterclass in the NHS for mental health service users. And I can remember like the amount of weird looks from staff members thinking, crystal healing, how's that going to help? But it was the start of my spiritual journey. And then I think the lockdown hit, and I had a lot of free time, as many people did. And I can just remember being sat there on evenings and weekends, not being able to see family or friends, thinking, how can I get this message out there? And so I can just remember being sat thinking, I'm going to couple some candles with some crystals and sell them as little bundles, like little self care kits. And that's how it started. And I was trying to think of a business name. And for some reason, when I started meditating, all I could hear was my granddad's voice. Now, my granddad always used to say "Gan Canny" whenever I left his house. And it's kind of a way of saying in Geordie, like, take it easy, take it steady. And I could just remember his voice saying "Gan Canny." And straight away I thought, oh my God, Canny Crystals. So I launched the website on my birthday in 2021. And to put that into perspective, that's 4.5 years ago now. I've got just over 100,000 social media followers. We've just packed our 45,000th order. And I've got an academy of like, I think it's something like 22,000 people that have come through the doors in the academy. My podcast, like you say, it's constantly at number one for spirituality. And I just feel like if my granddad hadn't passed, I would probably still be in the NHS. So it's I know it's an awful thing to say, but it's almost like every cloud has a silver lining. And I think that's the kind of message that I want to portray, that no matter how bad you're feeling or how bad you feel in a certain moment, things will always get better and there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, I always thank my granddad. Like, I know he's not here, but his spirit lives on in me, because if he hadn't have passed, it wouldn't have led me down that route, and I wouldn't have had those experiences in my life. And I wouldn't be sat here right now talking to you guys if he hadn't have passed as well. So it's almost like in his passing, he left me a gift of becoming.
Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt story. And Sarah and I, as you know, as we were listening to, we were both really captivated by it. And it's that this biggest part of there was probably always signs for you to follow
Yeah,
a pathway, but when he passed, it almost cleared space for you to for it to be so clear
yeah.
in the path that because you're here to to connect with people, to help people heal, to help people come back to themselves. And if that, like you said, if that hadn't happened, then all of this wouldn't have maybe happened in this form in the way it has. So thank
It's
you.
weird because I did a past life regression not long ago, and she said I lived in ancient Greece and I was a healer. This woman knew nothing about me, but she said I was a healer, and she said people used to come to me for healing advice and medication. And I'm like, that is so weird that I had a career in the NHS in mental health and then went down this
Yeah.
route. It's almost like it was always destined for me to go down this route. But like you say, it's not until you're actually pushed or you've got the space to actually think about it that it actually starts to come into fruition.
Mhm. And if we can just touch upon, and I don't know if there was anything around this. I know a lot of people listening will deeply resonate. Like likely in a job that maybe they're like, this doesn't fulfill me, I want to do something more. I would love to do that. I would love to craft something that I was really passionate about. But that leap does, especially putting yourself out there, I can imagine, I'm not sure if this was relevant for you, but I can imagine putting yourself out there, crystal healing, manifesting, spirituality, relatively early in like to your own personal journey. Like, did you have to overcome any fear of judgment around that? Like, what were the obstacles that you faced on that journey?
100%. I think the fear of judgment from, old school friends, people that I had on Facebook or Instagram on my personal page, I was scared because obviously I made a business profile straight away and I was sharing things on there all the time, but never with my face in them. So, for example, I would just get a crystal and I would just be like, it would just be the video of the crystal with its properties and its benefits and about that crystal, like knowledge based. And it wasn't until there was one day, and I just remember thinking, you need to get over this fear of showing your face. And I remember sharing it to my personal Facebook. And I think I got something like 100 likes on the business page. And on this one post on my personal page, I didn't get any. And I was like, it's because it's not the right audience, or people will be thinking, oh God, what's he doing now? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, how does this tie into what I've done for the last 15 years in the NHS? So it's like people just didn't understand and they didn't get it. But you know what? The more I put myself out there and the more I started talking in videos from behind the camera, people started getting used to my voice. And then I can just remember when it all changed. I just researched about the moon and about the full moon and the new moon. I knew we were coming into a new moon cycle. And I thought, I'm going to do a little talking face video. And I hate the way I sound, hate the way I look. So this was a big thing for me. Set up a tripod, recorded a video of me. And I just thought, oh my God, just grin and bear it, do it anyway. And I posted it. That video went viral. It got something like 2.5 million views on TikTok. And I gained something like 23,000 followers overnight just from that one video. Now, that for me was crazy. And it solidified that everything I've been putting off for being fearful has been really holding me back. And this is the way that I need to go. So I think within 6 months of running my business, I thought to myself, do you know what? Like a podcast might be the way to go about this because I love sharing knowledge and I love just talking because talking kind of comes naturally to me. And it means that I don't have to show my face. I means some days I do it from my bed. You know what I mean? I just get my microphone and I'm there. Don't worry, the sound quality is good. But it's almost like I just wanted to be heard and listened to without actually showing my face. And I just created my podcast. And I think, yeah, it obviously took time to build. I don't think it hit number one for like a year before, like after it came out. But it was almost like I was starting to be a bit more respected for what I was doing, and people were actually coming to me for advice, and they were coming to me for a bit of knowledge. And, like it almost like became as though I was becoming an agony aunt. So people would say, "Oh, my dad's brother's best friend's dog has leukemia. He's about to have an operation and be put down. What can I do?" And I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And it kind of like started draining my energy a little bit, getting all of
Mm,
these requests because it was almost like when I get involved in something, I take everything on. So
mm,
I know I was speaking to Denise Duffield Thomas about this not long ago. And we were talking about money mindset, but it's quite relevant to this. And she'd said, can you imagine if on a day to day basis, you walked around with a backpack on your back and you walk past every single person that you walk past, they give you a rock. If you put that rock into your backpack, eventually you're going to be so bogged down and so weighed down, you're not going to be able to walk yourself. You need to be able to say no thank you and put boundaries up and preserve your own energy. And that's what I had to start and do and say to people like, yes, I'm here for advice, but there's only so much advice I can get. It was almost like people started to take advantage of my willingness to listen.
Yeah.
So it was about protecting my boundaries and things as well. But I had to overcome so many limiting beliefs of not just being seen, but also earning money because that
mm,
was a big one for me. Like I came from a family growing up that literally had nothing. And I mean nothing. Like one of my first earliest memories at school was being shunned out of the school photo because I was wearing a burgundy bobble knit jumper that my mum had knitted for me, and everyone else had the correct school attire on. And the head teacher, I remember she elbowed me out of the photo as the photo was being taken and said, can your mum not afford the uniform? And I've always had that memory. So we never had anything growing up. So I think I've had to do a lot of money mindset work and self-worth as well, because I kept on thinking like, I made this business because I'm passionate about it and I love to help people. It was never about the money for me, but the money obviously comes because of that. You know what I mean? Like, it costs money to run a website. It costs money to buy crystals, to package them, to sell them, and to host like all these like trainings that I have on my academy. And I just kept on thinking, like, I need to do some money mindset work. So I had all those limiting beliefs coming up of, who are you to earn this kind of money? Who are you to sell this kind of thing? And you know what? As soon as I started working on them, I got a phone call one day and it was from someone at Chanel, which was wild anyway. And she said, "We would love to buy your crystals and we would love for you to come to London to dress our summer ball and we will give you a set amount." And I was like, "What is the set amount?" Now, bearing in mind, when I left the NHS, I was earning £27,000 in the year, right? She literally paid me £27,000 exactly for one day's work. I was like, I
Wow.
have made more in one day than I did for the entire year in the NHS. And that's kind of what solidified it for me. And I was like, all these limiting beliefs I have, soon as you
Mhm.
start thrashing through those and you start working through them, because let's be real, like limiting beliefs are always going to be there no matter what level of life you are. Like Beyonce will probably have limiting beliefs, Oprah
Yeah.
will have limiting beliefs, everyone has them.
Mhm.
But once we start working through them, it's like we can reach that next energetic income level or that next energetic level of our self worth and who we are and step into the version of us that actually deserves it.
I
Oh
love
my
that you've said
goodness.
that.
Yes.
It's such a synchronicity conversation because we actually had this conversation together yesterday. And thank you for sharing your story. Like similar to you, I grew up with very little. Like I grew up in, a council kind of estate. Like we never had anything. I remember getting one of my earliest memories was I got for my birthday a Kylie Minogue album. And I was so, so happy. And I remember I had the tape and I was so ecstatic. And I brought it to a friend's house to play it on the cassette player. And she was like, "Oh, I've got it too." And when she took out hers, it was the official one. And my one had my mum's handwriting where she'd just written the songs. She'd obviously like just got like
Yeah.
recorded it off something else.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they were like, "Oh, it's not real." And I remember just going, "Oh my, I can still feel that emotion." So similar, like I've had to do a lot, we both have had to do a lot of money mindset work. And I remember when I started mine, I had a journal and I still have it upstairs. I keep it. It's the one journal that I won't throw out. I bought it in Tesco or something and it had a silver cover and it said create magic on it. And I did a money mindset workshop and I would write out all of my positive like affirmations on it. And I really started to clear the blocks and started to feel
Mhm.
safe around money. And it was 2 weeks after I started that I got my first book deal. And it came out of nowhere. And again, it was like, I thought it was a scam. I thought, oh, they're going to want money off me to publish a book. And she was like, no, 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 like we pay you for this. And it was one of those moments where that solidified for me that truth, that felt truth that we can't necessarily prove, from like science or anything right now. Right now,
Yeah.
I think we'll catch up. But it was like, wow, there is something that I can't see in the energy that I put out there that
Yeah.
is clearly having an impact on that universal energy.
I
Mhm.
often refer to it as kind of like if you think of a dam where it's like made up of loads and loads of rocks, okay? So the water is trickling through those rocks, isn't it? And it's just coming through at a steady pace. If those rocks each equal like one limiting belief and you start removing those rocks, the flow of water is going to come through tenfold. And I always say to people, like, think of it like that and visualize it like that because it helps you like picture and be able to see what will actually happen when you start removing those limiting beliefs and you get rid of them. But
Mhm.
what I always say with people as well is you cannot build a house on unsteady foundations. So working with limiting beliefs and getting rid of them, it's almost like if a house crumbled, you wouldn't just start rebuilding it on top of all the rubble, would you? You would sweep away all the debris first, and then you would start laying your foundations again. So it's like kind of like that's what we have to do in life. We have to go through things, break it all down, sweep it all away, and start afresh. And that's the best way, I think, to get like break through your limiting beliefs and, like I say, reach that next energetic level.
Yeah. Can I ask you a wee question about your crystals for that? So
Yeah.
when you're manifesting or you're in maybe a meditation or in a space with manifesting, How does a crystal help amplify that?
Yeah, so all crystals, obviously, they all come from the ground. They're all naturally formed. And crystals have been around for millions of years. They have been literally forming right beneath our feet for millions and millions of years. And because they come from the earth, they're obviously kissed by the sun, kissed by the oceans, in the olden days. I say the olden days as if it was only like a few hundred years ago, millions of years ago. And it's almost like they have this energetic power hold. So I see crystals as kind of like batteries for healing. So, like if I said to you, for example, you know, I'm thinking in like an example as like my phone. If I said to you, put your phone up on that shelf, in a month's time, do you really expect to still be getting calls or texts on that phone? It's purely because you would need to charge it. So it's like the crystal is a power hold for healing, but we need to replenish its energy. So
Mm.
crystals can absorb negative energy, they can boost and amplify positive energy, but we do need to give them a cleanse every now and again. So, you can pop them out in sunlight, pop them out in moonlight. That tends to cleanse them. We can put water safe crystals in water. So whenever I go for a walk, either to the woods or something like that, there's a little stream that runs through. I usually take a handful just so that running water can wash away any negativity. Or if I go to the beach, I take them to the beach with me and give them a little wash in the sea. Smoke is a good cleanser. Sound is a good cleanser. Vibration healing. But yeah, crystals basically amplify what's already in us, so they align with the body's chakras as well, which is another great way to use them. So a lot of people think, okay, I'm wanting to use citrine, which is mainly for like joy and happiness. So they'll pop it on their solar plexus chakra, for example. It just boosts that energy. And it's like we all are made up of energy. So crystals are no different. They are just a different makeup of that energy, basically.
Yeah.
But they can really, really help. Now, going back to my story about my granddad, the crystals that girl from Liverpool sent me, one of them was just a simple rose quartz, and she said
Mm.
it's one of the best crystals for self-love and self-worth. And I remember holding it to my heart center where she told me to, and she just said, just visualize yourself smiling. That's all you need to do. And so I can just remember being sat there with this rose quartz every day in the bath, just visualizing myself smiling, out for a walk, being happy, laughing with friends, laughing with family. And it was almost like that self-worth and that self-esteem and that self-confidence started coming back to me. And obviously your body, they have like their own, what's it called, electromagnetic field.
Mhm.
So crystals are just like working with that and amplifying that energy. A lot of people like always say, oh, what about a negative crystal, or what about like a bad crystal? There aren't any. There literally aren't. They're just amplifying what's already in you and giving you that boost of confidence. Some people don't believe in crystal healing, and to that some people often say to me, but they're just rocks. And I'm like, yeah, but this is just a cup. That's just a pen. They still work. They still have meaning. They still have use. And even if you don't believe in crystal healing and you just think, oh, it's the placebo effect is still scientifically proven to
Yeah.
work. So what's the harm? I always say to people, what is the harm? You're not doing anyone any harm. You're not walking around with a knife or a gun. You're literally walking around with a pretty little crystal that you can put in your pocket and give yourself a nice boost of energy.
Mm, I love
Oh, I love
that.
that
And like,
geode.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I've just brought out this big crystal. Sarah and I, when we were in Ibiza at Old Town last year, this was two parts, and we got half each.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
lovely.
So, but we love that, and do you know, I love that you said the placebo effect. And I think it's what that tells me as well as the power of who we are when we have intention.
Yeah.
And how powerful we are when we set our intention to connect with a crystal, to amplify its energy, to manifest or to heal. It's those parts combined that can really, really amplify things. So I love that. I just want to ask you a quick question,
Mm,
right, around like quality of crystals.
yeah.
Okay. We obviously got that in a beautiful space in Ibiza. We asked about, she was able to tell us where it was from, etc. What's your thoughts on the quality of crystal? Going back to the point of, well, it could just be this and it's your intention or your energy behind it as well.
So I think the quality of the crystal is paramount basically to this. Like you were saying there about intention as well, though. because I'm trained in mindfulness and I am a mindful coach, that's what I used to do in the NHS as well. It's almost like that intention is everything. But even just having a crystal in your hand to close your eyes, it's kind of like just keeping you mindful because you can feel that texture in your hand. You know, you can feel its energy. A lot of people can feel energy coming and transmitting from the crystal itself. Um, but it's almost like it just keeps you grounded in the present moment. And I think that's what crystals are great for. But when it comes to quality, like I say, I do think quality is paramount. Now, when I first set up my Instagram profile for Canny Crystals, I you have no idea, honestly, how many messages I was sent from this mine, this mine, this mine. And it was just people flogging things like, oh, there's a $500 minimum spend. And I was looking at the things and I was like, oh, these are amazing. Now, the first batch of crystals that I ever bought for Canny Crystals were from this seller in China. And it wasn't until I listed them on the website, someone messaged me and they went, these are Chinese. And I went, how do you know? And she went, because they're fake. They are painted glass. And I was like, no way. So I pulled them all from the website straight away. And she said, send me a screenshot of your Instagram inbox. So I did. And she went, they're all fake sellers. There is such a huge minefield. So we work with 14 or 15, I think it is now, family run mines, because for me, the ethicality, the authenticity, and making sure that that mine is running a safe, practical practice, mining those crystals, that's everything to me. And to make sure that I get the best quality pieces, because I don't just want a random bit of crystal that's still got dirt all over it and things. But also there's a lot of talk in like Afghanistan, for example, where they mine lapis lazuli. It tends to be where the majority of it comes from. There's a lot of things going on there about, the war and how it's used to fund the war over there. And there are so many different things that you've got to look into when you are looking for crystals. So, like I say, we work with 15 family run mines. Now, these are people that I speak to on, I'm going to say like a weekly to a fortnightly basis. And these are people that I literally have FaceTime calls to. So I can see these crystals hanging out of the cave. I can see them hanging out of the dirt. And then they'll pick it out and they'll be like, oh, well, we've just had these bits here. And they'll have a huge crate. And I'll say to them, right, I want that bit there at the top. I want that bit there at the bottom. I literally hand select everything. And yes, it
Wow.
takes time, but I think it's reflected in the amount of reviews that we get for the amazing pieces that we stock. And it's because of the time and the effort and the intention that I put into getting the very best from them. I
Mhm.
don't just want them to send us like, 500 kilos of something, because believe me, when an order comes to my office, they have to ring me at the front desk and I have to go around with a trolley, and it takes about 5 or 6 trolley runs to get it from reception round here. There's usually about 500, 600 kilos, and I can't walk for days afterwards because of all the heavy lifting. It is absolutely antagonizing. It's awful. But I love it so much. It's like Christmas every time I open the box. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. And I always end up keeping stuff for myself.
I was gonna
Like,
say you'd be like
Yeah.
shiny object
so
syndrome.
I bought this not
Um,
long ago, right? So this is
Wow.
15 kilos. It's absolutely huge and
wow.
it's heavy, but this is like one of the nicest pieces of Labradorite I have ever seen in my life. And I was like, I cannot sell that. I was like, that is literally coming home with me.
Like that's
So
mine.
it just stays on the side of my desk here. So
That is
yeah.
gorgeous. Um, one of our graduates actually bought some crystals off you, and I hope that I get the name of this right. Is it Moldavite?
Yeah,
The
Moldavite, yeah.
really strong one. Talk to
Yeah.
us about that, because I know that's been like doing the rounds a little bit on social media in terms of like the power of that
Yeah.
crystal. And some people saying it comes into your life and you've got to be really careful, and like instantly it can like bring everything to the surface. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I love talking about Moldavite because it is honestly one of the most transformational. It's not actually a crystal, it's a tektite, but we class it
Okay.
as a crystal. So basically, Moldavite was formed from a meteor impact 15,000 years ago in what is now the Czech Republic. So it's only ever found in that one place in the world, okay? And most people think it is the meteor. It's not. That's the big, hoo-ha here. People always think, oh, I've got a space rock. And I'm like, you don't. This meteor hit the earth. The heat from that caused the earth to like obviously fly up into the air, and because it was so hot it melted the earth. So it's almost like, when you think of lava, it's like it heated up to that much that this kind of lava went up into the air And as it all fell back down to the ground, it shattered everywhere. So this meteor was absolutely huge. I mean, we're talking 15,000 years ago, like I say, and they are still finding pieces of this meteor everywhere. Now, since the pandemic, I think that's when it kind of boomed on TikTok. There's one woman put a video on and it went absolutely viral. She said, whatever you do not get this piece of moldavite. It has totally flipped my life upside down. It was sold to me as a transformational crystal that accelerates time. She was like, in the space of a week, my partner has cheated on, my partner's left me, my granddad has died, I've lost my job, loads of different things have been happening. It was like a chain of events. Now, what people didn't see is the video that she put on just 2 weeks later, saying that she'd found out a boyfriend had been cheating on her the whole time. Her granddad had left her $200,000 in a will, and
Mm.
she was now able to buy her own place and she didn't have to work. And it was almost like Moldavite had kind of moved heaven and earth. But I always say to people, like, because they're always like, oh, I don't want any of my family members to die. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Moldavite isn't going to kill anyone. Do
Yeah, it's
you know
not
what I
going
mean?
to actually put a
Yeah,
spell on them, like kill them.
yeah, exactly that. And people are so fearful because of that one TikTok. But I
Wow.
always say, like, no crystals or stones or tektites or anything are evil. You know, they are just enhancing what's already within you. So what Moldavite does is it tends to just accelerate time and open up doors to opportunities that, you know, you might not have seen beforehand, or give you little intuitive nudges towards a certain route in life. And
Yeah.
that's all it does. So the first time I bought myself some Moldavite, I mean, I don't know if you can see this piece here, but for people that are listening to this, it's no bigger than the tip of my thumb. I mean, it's
Mhm.
absolutely tiny. That piece there was probably about £150. It's
Wow.
very expensive. It's a very expensive crystal, but the price has shot through the roof because they are finding less and less of it in these mines nowadays. And because it's becoming so rare and so scarcely found, they've had to bump the price up. That's the only way they can get around it. So, um, obviously, when I started using Moldavite, I don't know why, but there was one day I was meditating and I just suddenly thought, I would love to get on a massive podcast. And at the time, I Googled who the number one podcast in spirituality was, and it was Francesca Amber. Now, I'd never spoken to Francesca before. And I just thought, you know what? Just going to take a little intuitive nudge here. I'm going to send her a DM and say, I'd love to come on your podcast, talk about crystal healing. The next day, I was driving down to Lincoln to her house. We recorded an episode of her podcast, recorded an episode of my podcast featuring her. The next week, I overtook her and went straight to number one. And my podcast has been like top 5 in the UK ever since that moment. And I thank her all the time because she really elevated my business. But at the same time, I also thank my Moldavite because I'm thinking that might not have ever came to me, that idea to just, you know, go out of my comfort zone and just message her, if I hadn't have been working with Moldavite at the time. And similarly, like that story I told earlier about working with Chanel, that phone call came out of the blue. But the day before, I was meditating with it and I sent off an order to somebody else that I didn't know worked for Chanel. And I put just a little something extra special in the box. And I think that's kind of what tipped the scale. But I don't know why I put that little thing in the box. It was just like an intuitive nudge to be like, give her a keyring for nothing. She spent quite a lot of money here. Do you know what I mean? But she was actually sampling my goods. And it wasn't until, like, she got
You
that and
said
she was like, "Oh,
that.
thank you so much for the extra freebies. We're gonna work with you." And I'm
Wow.
thinking, "Hmm, was that because of that?"
I don't know, but I want some multiple.
Me too. Me too.
Right, your next order's from Sarah and I.
No.
I bet everyone's like, give me some, give me
It
some.
is so transformational. One thing I will say about it as well is I once had a message of someone and she said, I'm currently going through IVF. Can you recommend any crystals to help me, you know, transform my life? I want this baby so badly. And I recommended Moldavite to her, right? That was the first. We've since had 37 canny crystal babies from people who say they cannot get pregnant or they could not get pregnant. They were going through treatment, they were barren, things like that, and they've got pregnant. We are on to our 37th canny crystal baby. And every time one comes up, I have to screenshot the message and put it in a folder on my phone. And I keep uploading them to my Instagram story. And I'm like, ladies, just remember, if you've got Moldavite, close your legs. Please keep your legs closed.
If you don't want one, is there any crystal that you would say someone should avoid if they're maybe really struggling? Is it, or are they fit for everyone?
I do think if you are struggling, Moldavite enhances everything. It just amplifies everything. So, I mean, if you're at rock bottom, the only way to go is up. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
nothing is going to harm you. Like I said, no, there's no inheritively like evil crystals or bad negative crystals or anything like that. But I'd say if you were feeling down, I would use something black because black tourmaline, black obsidian, smoky quartz, they are all really good at absorbing the negativity. And Labradorite, like the big one that I just showed you there, the big colorful one, Labradorite transmutes negativity into positivity. So I would always say go for something like that because if you went for Moldavite, which is quite high vibrational, it might amplify the feelings that are already within you, and if you are feeling, like, anxious or depressed or
Mm.
anything like that, it could just enhance that as well, so that's the only reason I say to people to be careful about this because it is such a powerful crystal, but, yeah, there are so many crystals, I could literally
Yes, I
talk all
guess
day
you
about
could
them.
combine them as well, that with
Yeah.
something else, you
Yeah.
know.
So, for example, I sell a Moldavite pendant that's also got tourmaline on it because tourmaline is naturally grounding. So it's almost like it's shooting you up into the stratosphere, but it's also keeping you grounded at the same time. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Mm,
keeping both feet firmly on the ground while still letting you dream and have your head in the clouds.
yeah. Do you know what I think makes you really unique in the space? And I'm curious, kind of like I'm curious to understand like the journey and how this came to you because there's a lot of kind of like crystal shops and people
Yeah,
doing it, but you have this ability to combine like the physical crystal with then the support that's wrapped around it in terms of like you get that intuitive nudge, right? But you might not follow it because of what we've talked about, like the limiting belief.
yeah,
And like you're actively working with the crystal rather than just having it.
yeah.
So, like, talk to us about how those events kind of like come to you and the passion and purpose behind it.
I think it's all about education. Like when I was working in the NHS, the number one thing that a service user would want to know is how is my medication going to affect X, Y, and Z? Do you know what I mean? So rather than just being there to prescribe someone medication or prescribe them a crystal, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like I want to give them that background knowledge. I want to educate them on how best to use it, how to get the most out of it. I don't think there's anything worse than buying something from a shop and getting home and there's no instruction manual. You
Totally.
know? Yeah. And you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Like I bought my kid a toy. It's like a I think it's like a white noise machine or something. It's basically the shape of a sheep and he can cuddle in it. And at night, it turns itself on if he starts crying, shushes him back to sleep. The one we got from Amazon had no instruction manual. So for the first 6 months, I was just turning it on and off every time he was crying. Then I realized there's a button inside that has a setting that like detects his cry and it just comes on naturally. And I was like, all this time. So it's like almost like I want to provide that service to people where I'm giving them the full experience. So they're not just buying a crystal, they're buying something that's going to support them mentally, physically, emotionally. But I think because I've got that NHS experience as well, it's like I'm always constantly trying to weave in mindfulness, meditation, well-being, self-care. And I think crystal healing kind of intertwines with that massively because, like you say, there's so many crystal shops out there, and not to slate them or anything like that because they're all amazing, but they will literally sell you a crystal and you walk out the door and that's it.
That is what happens.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But with
That is
me,
that is what happens.
with every single order, I send out how to use this crystal, how to get the most out of it, how to cleanse it, that kind of thing. And then every single week, I'm sending out educational emails as well about, crystals for anxiety or depression or crystals for happiness. And it's just like, I feel like I'm given like the whole experience rather than just, here you go, there's your crystal, on your way, see you later. And I
Mm.
think that's what's kind of making me a little bit different to other people. But even the podcast that came about because I wanted to share that education. And then
Mhm.
off the back of the podcast, people were saying, I would love for you to do YouTube. And it was just something that wasn't on my radar. And I tried it for about 6 months, posting consistently, and it just wasn't getting any traction. And I just kept on thinking, this is a huge waste of my time because it takes so long to edit these videos and to record them and to come up with new content. And so I thought to myself, how can I educate people in kind of a group setting? And straight away, I came up with a little bit of an idea that I could have a membership. And, every fortnight I could go live and talk about the cycle of the moon, tie it in with that, talk about what to expect for the next 2 weeks, talk about crystals to use, talk about manifesting techniques, talk about release work, talk about shadow work. And that took off massively. And I thought, right, I need a little bit more than this. How about I do a crystal masterclass? So I did like a 6-week crystal masterclass, put that online. That went crazy. So then I was like, what next? I've always had an interest in money mindset from like what we were saying earlier about coming
Mhm.
from nothing. So I did a money masterclass. And before I knew it, I've got like a tarot reading masterclass. I've got manifestation
Mhm.
masterclass. There's like about 10 different courses on the Canny Crystals Academy. But it all came because of that willingness to want to help people and wanting to give them more and wanting to educate them.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love I love that story. And I think for so many, especially of our listeners who are thinking about going into this space, like, building a business or a life where they're making that impact. And I think often we think, oh, well, you have to come from like a long line of entrepreneurs, or
Yeah.
you need to know someone, like someone who can help you out. And we can get in our heads that story. But I truly believe, and I think it's evidence through your story, when you have the passion and the purpose and the authenticity and the genuine, and you can feel it from you,
Yeah.
the genuine, I want to be in service, then anyone can wrap the strategy around that. But if you just have strategy and you don't have that, there's an energetic feel whenever you talk about it that you're
Yeah.
like, I want that. Like, I want to be part of that. And I hope for anybody listening that you really take that away today. Like everything that we're talking about, like use the crystals, but like use this as like a point of inspiration as to what you can do and build when you're genuinely in service, and how the universe conspires to help you from that place as well.
And just to add on to that as well, like, so I'm going to say this is about a year and a half ago now. I was sat there meditating with my Moldavite once again, and I can just remember thinking, I would love to host like an all day event. You know what I mean? And just have all of these people that I am teaching, all the people that listen to the podcast in one room with incredible guest speakers that have been on the podcast that we all know and love and are in this same space as us all. And we can all come together as a community inside of just this huge environment. And then I was thinking, and I could have workshops and I could have like exhibitors and things like that. And just off the back of that, I put out to my mail list who would be interested in this. And I had about 900 people say, I'm in straight
Mhm.
away. And I was
Mhm.
like, this is amazing. So I hired a venue. We ran our first event in June this year, which is called Manifest. That's Manny Dash Fest. And I just thought, why has no one thought of that name before? I thought I was
Yeah,
dead giddy because I was
very
like, it's a
good.
festival, Manifest. And then the first comment I got was, why is it in Newcastle when it's called Manifest? Shouldn't it be in Manchester? And I was like, oh, get in the bin. Please get in the bin. I was like, it's called Manifest because manifest. So yeah, so I just gained a load of speakers in terms of mindfulness, meditation, manifestation, spirituality. So I had people like Kirsty Gallagher, Francesca Amber, Jess Cunningham, some amazing, huge names. And it went so, so well that we even launched tickets straight away for Manifest 2026. And 40% of the tickets sold out before we'd even announced any of the lineup.
Wow.
And just to put it out there, you two girls are going to be
We
attending next year, aren't
We
you?
are.
we
We cannot
are.
wait. I was going to say we cannot possibly wrap this episode up without talking about Manifest, because that in itself is phenomenal to create what you've created. But what I'm really seeing as I'm listening to you is evidence of doing the work. Like
Yeah,
you are the embodiment of what you teach, and it's evident.
yeah,
And it's never a one and done, right? This is something that you will continually practice. I mean, Sarah and I talk about this. You don't just go, okay, well, I did that thing and then it's not, it's not happening. It is a
yeah,
continual, you know, connection, coming back to yourself, meditation, practice with your crystals. That's it. You embody what you teach, and as a result of that, look at what you have achieved. I mean, that festival, Sarah and I were watching, we were like, oh my word.
My social media feed, I mean, I couldn't escape from it. It was everywhere. I felt like every single person was there. and the feedback and the response was just amazing. So we are delighted to be invited there to be main stage speakers, and we'll share in the show notes as to how you can get your tickets. We would love for you to come and join us
I've
there, because I
already
know
been
it's going
sharing
to be
it.
fabulous.
I
Yeah.
know a few people down in Newcastle. I'm like, I'm coming down here for this. We need to meet up. You need to come along.
Yeah, I know a
Because
It
lot
was
of our
it was just so inspirational to have that caliber of people in there, because what surprised me as well was that I think it was something like 78% of people actually bought solo tickets and came on their own. Now,
brilliant.
what I did in my opening speech, because I hosted it and everything, thought, why not? Might as well. Saves me paying for a host. I just thought, I'm going to make all these people stand up just so they can actually physically see in the room, because a lot of people had apprehensions about coming on the day. Some people even didn't turn up on the day because they thought, oh, I'm coming on my own, couldn't find anyone to come with, so I just didn't bother turning up. And I made them all stand up and I made them all look around the room. And immediately one person in the front row started clapping. Before we knew it, everyone stood up and started clapping these people. And I just thought, this is the tribe that I've been
Connection,
cultivating for the
community.
last 5 years. Do you know what I mean? It was so lovely to have those people in. It totally went without a hitch. Everyone was super lovely to each other. And you know what? People left feeling inspired. And that's exactly what
Mm.
I wanted them to do.
Oh,
Gorgeous, gorgeous. So tell us what's next for you. You might have seen the show. Obviously, we can't talk too much about it. You know, we're not allowed to. But you've got that coming up, The Inheritance on Channel 4, and your
Yeah.
appearance was just announced yesterday. Do you want to share a little bit in terms of
Yeah, so my mum says I get where farts can't, purely because I am constantly looking for the next best thing. So, like, obviously, my podcast went to number one year. I launched the academy the next year. Then I was like, right, this is the perfect time for us to do an adoption. So, went through the whole adoption process for 2 years. We had our little boy last January. Then I hosted Manifest this June. And I'm constantly thinking, what's the next thing? And obviously, I got approached by someone that worked for a casting company. They said, would you like to take part in this game show on Channel 4? You would need to be away from home for 3 weeks, fully immersive, so no outside contact. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I've got a business. I'm the only person in my business. I don't have any admin or anything like that. I do everything myself. And she said to me, there's a huge chance that you could win like £100,000 here. And I was like, do you know what? That would set my little boy up for life. It really would. And it would give him the start in life that I never had. And I don't want him to grow up a brat or with a silver spoon or anything like that. But at the same time, I do think money makes things easier. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. So, yes, that's pretty much all I can say about the show. It's hosted by Judge Rinder, and
mhm.
we are basically invited to an estate to fulfill a series of very weird requests from the deceased lady who owned the estate, who was played by Liz Hurley, which she's incredible, by the way. And yeah, you'll have to tune in Channel 4, 9 p.m., Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all throughout September to find out how I did, because I'm not getting the 50 grand fine for spoiling it.
no, do not.
No, we will not. Yeah, no spoilers, but I cannot wait to watch this.
Cannot
And
wait.
So
yeah,
I think next as
yeah.
well, I released my book in February this year, which was so hard to write, especially having a newborn baby in the house. I was just doing it every time he was going to sleep. I was like, right, get my laptop out now. Everyone was like, no, you need to sleep when the baby sleeps. And I'm like, I've got a book to write. I need to meet this 75,000 word like deadline. So I released my book. It went to number one in 9 categories on Amazon, went to number one in the US, the UK, and Australia. It was absolutely crazy what happened. So a lot of people like said that it was, some people don't like listening to the podcast, and it was kind of my way of getting what I've learned throughout hosting the podcast and putting it into book format. So if you don't want to listen to it, you can read it instead. You know what I mean? Everyone learns in a different way. So I think it was my way of trying to be as accessible as possible in my teachings. But yeah, I've had so much good feedback from that, and I've already started writing book 2 as well. So I'm going to say I'm about 25% of the way there with book 2. It's a huge process, as I'm sure you're more than
Yeah.
aware. Really takes its toll on you. So I think that is next for me. But then after that, it would just be concentrating on Manifest 2026 and trying to grow that little side business, because it
Mhm.
is kind of a side business. It's not the same as what I do here. It's taking it and, what's next? Could it go global? Could it go
Mhm.
like multiple times a year? That kind of thing. So yeah, you just don't know what the future holds, do you?
Oh, you
Love
don't,
that. I
you're
mean,
so inspiring. So
so
inspiring.
inspiring.
Yeah, you said you get energy from us when you speak to us. We feel exactly the same when we speak to you. Like
Oh,
it's that case of expansion, and it's that energy that you radiate where anything is possible, but you've got to do the work, right?
yeah,
You've got to do the work and put yourself out there. Put
yeah.
yourself out there to not everyone, there's so much success, right? And lots of success stories, but I'm sure there's been things that haven't worked,
Oh
but it's
yeah,
you've never stopped. And I think that's the biggest difference. It's like really following your purpose, your mission. I think when your purpose and your mission is bigger than your fear of failure, that's when you keep going, and you're testament to amazing things. And imagine all of these people, those thousands and thousands of people that have either spent time in your energy, listened to your podcast, bought a crystal or 10 from you, the ripple effect that you making that decision to start that
yeah.
has done. Thank goodness for you taking that into the space. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I don't know about you, Sarah, but I feel like I'm so pumped up.
I'm so pumped up, and I'm sure everyone listening is really, really inspired. What is the best way if anybody wants to connect with you, as I'm sure many people will after this podcast? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on all social media as Mart Tweedy, which is Mart, not Mark, not Mary, as my mum sometimes texts in autocorrect and stuff. Mart Tweedy, or you can find my business page, which is Canny Crystals, across all social media as well. The website is cannycrystals.co.uk. The event is Manifest 2026, and the book is called Limitless.
Great. We'll put everything in the show notes so that you can easily access that. Thank you for being a
Thank
huge
you.
inspiration. I feel I was quite tired this morning, but oh my goodness, I am buzzing with energy right now.
Oh,
And I'm off to order my Moldavite.
I know, me too. Me too. Oh, thank you so much,
you're so
Mark. It
welcome.
was
Thank you so
such a
much.
great conversation.